So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions have their third preseason game this Friday. We are just 2 days away from the Lions playing their final game of the 2023 preseason, and we've yet to see any starters. The starting quarterback hasn't played, the starting running backs haven't really played, the starting offensive line has yet to play together, as well as most, if not all, of the starting defensive players have yet to take the field for the Detroit Lions in a live game. And from what it sounds like, it sounds as though Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions are going to keep it that way and keep all of their major starters out for the third preseason game versus the Carolina Panthers this Friday. And there's a lot of mixed opinions about this take, right? There's a lot of people that think that this is a good thing, that you're going to prevent from injury, that you're going to have everybody be as fresh as possible going into Kansas City week 1. And then there's a lot of people that are the opposite. There's a lot of people that think the Detroit Lions are going to be a little bit rusty, that the starters need a little bit of playing time before the start of the 2023 season, and they need a few live game reps to knock off some of the rust from last year so we don't have a slow start like we did in 2022. So I want to talk about it today, talk about the players that haven't played, talk about the players that did play, talk about the ways the Detroit Lions have been getting their athletes ready for the NFL season, as well as whether or not I think that the starters should play in week 3. So let's start off with the players that haven't played. On the offensive side of the ball, it's pretty much everybody, with the exception of Jameson Williams in week 1 versus the Giants. There has been no offensive starter to take a snap for the Detroit Lions throughout 2 weeks of NFL football. Jared Goff hasn't played. David Montgomery is yet to play. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Jones Jr., Khalif Raymond, as well as Josh Reynolds, your starting 4 wide receivers for this season, have yet to play, as well as your starting offensive line, including backup offensive guard Halapoulivaati Vaitai, who's currently taking second-team reps, but I think the Detroit Lions still view him very much as a first-team player, despite having 6 starting caliber offensive linemen. So that right there is a big number of people who have yet to play. And really the only offensive starters that have played are going to be Sam Laporta, who didn't play in week 2, as well as Jahmyr Gibbs, who again didn't really play at all in week 2, did get ready, did warm up, did get dressed, but never saw game action throughout week 2 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. In a similar vein, the defense has even more players now playing. Aiden Hutchinson and Charles Harris, your starting edge rushers, haven't taken a snap yet. Aleem McNeil, your starting interior pass rusher, has yet to start. Alex Anzalone, your team captain and linebacker, has yet to play. Cam Sutton and Jerry Jacobs, your starting boundary cornerbacks, have yet to take the field. And your starting safeties, Kirby Joseph and CJ Gardner-Johnson, have not seen the field for the Detroit Lions, despite being just 15 days away from NFL kickoff. Now, again, there's a lot of people that are upset about this, and there's a lot of people that think this is a very, very smart thing to do. Now, the Detroit Lions are taking a very unique approach to the preseason, where a lot of people are playing their starters, where a lot of teams have at least given their starters some reps. The Detroit Lions are one of the few teams that haven't done so. The Detroit Lions are taking a very Philadelphia Eagles approach to this game, or to this preseason, in the fact that they aren't playing any of their starters. Last offseason, the Eagles went through 3 preseason games, played 0 of their starters in the beginning of the preseason, and ended up going all the way to the Super Bowl, started 8-0, and had a fantastic season. So not starting your players in the preseason isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can lead to some rust. It can lead to a slow start. And there's a reason that a majority of teams are playing their starters in the preseason opposed to sitting them the entire time. Now, is this a problem for the Detroit Lions? Obviously, the Detroit Lions have a very young football team. They're not getting any game reps. And with some additions on offense and defense, chemistry and team bonding and that team chemistry to work together is going to be more important than ever, especially knowing that the Lions open up in Arrowhead. Opening up an Arrowhead, they're facing the best team in the NFL in one of, if not the most hostile environments in the NFL. The Lions have started slow in 2022. They were very slow last year, off to a 1-6 start, and really didn't get started until after their bye week and until about week 7 and 8, when the Detroit Lions finally started to turn their season around and play really good football. In a similar vein, 2021, despite having significantly less talent and not being a great football team that year, the Lions started 0-10-1. They haven't had a winning record until the final week of the last season game. Right before that, the Detroit Lions had not had a winning record in over 2 full seasons. And a lot of it has to do with the slow starts to the season, right? Starting 0-10-1 is not good for your franchise. Starting 1-6 is not good for your franchise. And a lot of people are worried that in 2022, a very similar thing is going to happen, especially considering they open at Kansas City, then they come back home to Seattle, and then they're going to play obviously Atlanta, who I think is a sneaky good team with a lot of really good weapons. And then you go to Lambeau at Green Bay. Those are 4 pretty tough games to open the season, and the Detroit Lions can't get off to a 1-6 start. So there's a lot of people upset. There's a lot of people concerned that you're going to drop to KC because they're the best team in the league. Right? You might drop to Seattle because they have a super good offense and have added a couple of key pieces defensively, right? Atlanta might be one of those trap games where, yeah, I think the Lions are a better football team. I think they're a better constructed roster, but with all the weapons that the Atlanta Falcons have put around Desmond Ridder, there's no easy win there for the Atlanta Falcons. And then, of course, you have Green Bay, who, again, you are a better football team than you are a better roster than the Green Bay Packers, but it's a divisional game. It's in Lambeau Field. And even though the team is worse than last year, it's not going to be an easy win. And there is a reality where the Detroit Lions start 0-4. Now, obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Detroit Lions are going to get off to at least a 500 start, hopefully at least a 2-2 start before they get into some of the easier, quote unquote, easier games of their schedule. But a slow start is a real concern for the Detroit Lions, because if they have these playoff aspirations, if they have these aspirations to win division titles and host a playoff game, they're going to have to at least start the season roughly around 500 if they're going to want to compete with Minnesota and Chicago for this division crown. Now, the Detroit Lions, despite not playing any actual games, haven't just been practicing, right? It's not all walkthroughs, and it's not as if Jared Goff and the starting offense haven't done anything to prepare for the NFL season. The Detroit Lions have gone through 2 full joint practices with both the New York Giants and the Jacksonville Jaguars, both teams that won playoff games a season ago. And for the most part, throughout both of these scrimmages, throughout both of the one-on-ones, throughout every single aspect of these training camps, the Detroit Lions starters were the better football team, right? Especially against the Giants, the Detroit Lions were a better football team, starter for starter, right? The Lions starting offense dominated the starting defense of the Giants, and the Lions starting defense was able to force turnovers and not really allow very much for the New York Giants offense. Same thing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, they got a few big offensive plays, but the defense made a couple timely turnovers and was able to get quite a few big plays on their own right. And then the Detroit Lions starting offense was able to give Jacksonville's defense quite a bit of problems, despite having a little bit of talent on that defense, of course, being good enough to go to the playoffs in the divisional round a year ago. So they've gone through 2 full scrimmages and 2 full practice weeks, full pads, full contact with these playoff caliber teams. So it's not as if they haven't gotten any live reps, right? It's not as if they haven't been hit. It's not as if they have just been walking through with no pads on the entire summer, because they are at this point at least somewhat battle tested. And then yesterday, August 22nd, the Detroit Lions had a full practice of just a complete contact, full contact scrimmage, pads, hitting, pass rush, interceptions, big hits over the middle, and everything in between. And it was a really, really good opportunity to see the Detroit Lions in game action and really get to see our starters for the first time take a real scrimmage-esque play. And for the most part, they looked really, really good. Now, I don't have everything about this scrimmage. I wasn't necessarily there, and I only have the ability to read about what people saw. But for the most part, it was majority a very positive experience. Now, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Ifeatu Melifonwu did not play and did not participate in this scrimmage. But other than that, everybody was playing, everybody was in, and everybody was making plays. Brian Branch was the most dominant player on the football field. Had an interception, had tackles for loss, had big hits, had pass defended. I mean, he was all over the field for the first team defense and made several big-time plays against the first team offense. The defense, for the most part, I think played very, very well from what I've heard. They forced multiple turnovers. Both the first and second string defense was forcing turnovers. They were getting a good pass rush. They were getting good pressure and making the offense very uncomfortable. And I think from what it's been said and from what I have read, it seems as though the defense actually won the scrimmage the other day versus the offensive side of the ball. Now, that is not to say the offense is bad. That's not to say the offense didn't play well. They opened up with a 10-play, 12-play touchdown drive and did have 3 or 4 touchdown drives after that. So it wasn't as if the defense was just completely dominant and the Lions offense was rusty and static and wasn't able to get anything done. But it was more of a back and forth battle. One team would throw a punch while the other team would counter strike. Right? Both offense and defense made some big plays, but at the end of the day, it seems as though the defense and the pass rush specifically was able to create a lot of havoc, while the secondary was able to create quite a few turnovers. Now, a lot of the young players played very well. I saw that obviously Brian Branch was very good. I saw that Jack Campbell made a couple tackles for loss. I saw that Jahmyr Gibbs made a couple of big plays, as did Sam Laporta on the offense. Levi Onwuzurike had a tackle for loss or two. Really, a lot of the young players on this football team are starting to stand out in major and important ways. And I think it's a very good thing for this team to have, as a lot of their players are young and a lot of them are looking for that game experience. That is very similar to what they got in the scrimmage the other day. So with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Kind of just taking a look at whether the Detroit Lions should take their starters out, or that the Detroit Lions should be playing their starters, how they've been preparing their starters for the regular season, and of course, whether that is the right decision. Now, if you want my opinion on it, I personally think that the Detroit Lions should get an opportunity. The starters should get an opportunity to play in the preseason. I think that the Detroit Lions should take one series, their offense and defensive starters should take one series against the Carolina Panthers, right? Not only getting that in-game experience, not only getting those in-game reps, but getting those in-game reps in a hostile environment with away fans booing you, with noise being against the offense, right? I think it's a very different experience on the road, and it's obviously not going to compare to Arrowhead, right? Carolina in the preseason versus Arrowhead in the season primetime opener are two incredibly different things, but it could potentially at least be a soft cushion to help you kind of ease in to that away environment, as opposed from going from Allen Park, where, you sit 2,500 people, to Arrowhead Stadium, one of the loudest and most chaotic environments in the NFL. I think it would be a good opportunity to see our offense in action. I think it would be a good opportunity to see our defense in action. And yeah, there's always the risk of injuries, but I think that experience at an away game, I think that experience going against opposing fans and against that opposing fan base, making noise while your offense is on the field, is a good opportunity that the Lions aren't going to get at Allen Park. They're not even going to get that at Ford Field. So getting 1 or 2 drives in with the away team, with the away crowd going against you, I think would be a good thing for the Detroit Lions. But I'm not necessarily concerned if the starters don't go in. I think they will be prepared, and I think that they will put up a very good fight at Arrowhead on the first week of the season. So with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this situation. Do you want the starters to play? Do you want the starters to sit in week 3? Or do you think that the Detroit Lions should have been playing their starters from the very beginning? I'd be very curious to you guys have to say and what you guys have to think. And of course, if you enjoyed the content, please make sure you go down below, subscribe to the channel. If you made it this far, you clearly enjoy the content. So please go down below, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a Lions upload. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.